connecting, but reconnecting with an old friend. But this is strange because there are certain people that you have not seen in a long time. But then once you get back in that wheelhouse, baby, it's like you never left each other. And I am with Scott Stevens. Scott, there's so much of a backstory here. So I'm going to start with when I first met you. And you were like
Okay.
the cool, hot lead singer, frontman dude of a band called the Exies. Early 2000s band, making your own noise, paving your own way, not doing what everybody else was doing, just kind of doing your own thing. Big success with DHA listeners. We did a lot with you guys. You did Low Dose Show with us. We hooked up with you when you were on the Motley tour. There was so much going on. So much going on. And I loved you because you were just always a fun kind of guy to hang out with, but took the business very seriously.
Yes.
Right? Right.
Yes.
Your mind was always working. All right. So
Just trying to understand it. You know, it's all new at that point, right? You're just trying to understand, like, okay, what is this, and where am I, and why am I here?
yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
it's part of the life lesson of getting into a band and touring and doing radio and doing festivals and meet and greets and all of that. It doesn't just come overnight. You have to kind of learn it. You know?
So now I'm going to take you on to the next phase. Okay. So the Exies disband, I'm going to say 2011-ish, right? 2011, was that before that?
2007 was our last record, and then I think our last show was 2010.
10. Okay.
And a great way to end that, and I don't think anybody knows this, but we got flown to Russia to play an MTV Awards, and I think they called it Muse TV. And I still to this day don't really know how this happened or why, but it was us and Flyleaf got sent over, and we played with some other Russian bands at this, like, like an MTV Awards, and it was literally like 61,000 people.
Wow.
And that was our last show we ever did as a band, and it had
going out with a bang, baby.
and it had flames and moving like creatures on stage that were like holograms. And the stage was like the Super Bowl big. It was enormous. So that was the last hurrah. They paid us very well. We took our crew, first class flights over there, wonderful hotels. Oh yeah, and we had bodyguards with guns.
Oh, that's amazing. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. That's incredible. All right. So then your name starts popping up. See, you've been in this Reconnect with Rockers feature with me, and you don't even know it. For so many different artists. All right, I'm gonna shine down. Shine down, Lzzy Hale, Lilith Czar, Daughtry, Aaron Jones, like the list, Ash Costello, the list can just go on and on and on because you're the guy behind the songs. So there's something so amazing about a songwriter that can connect so much with an artist, where this artist feels like you are an extension of what they do. So I talk to a lot of artists, but I never speak to artists who talk about working with other songwriters the way they talk about working with you. And that is such a testament to who you are as a songwriter and producer. I mean, you're not just a songwriter, you're a producer, you're an architect of sound. And an architect of working with these artists. Like I remember when I spoke with Dorothy at the beginning of the album cycle for Gifts from the Holy Ghost, and she just literally got like on her hands and knees, and she was like, for Scott Stevens, I can't tell you enough about what he has done for me when he was visualizing Rest in Peace and thought of me as the voice for this song. So talk to me about when all of a sudden you said, you know what? I feel like I'm a pretty good songwriter. How do you start to move from being a frontman, the cool ass frontman, into the songwriter, and then into the guy who has the understanding of so many amazing rock and roll voices?
Okay, that's like a 3-part question.
Yeah.
So first part, how do you transfer over to becoming or reinvent yourself to becoming a producer, writer from being in a band? Look, I don't know if there's an easy answer for that, Terry, but like, I just know that we were in the middle of a snowstorm. in Michigan, and it felt like things were going in reverse for the band, and it just wasn't where we needed to be. And I just kind of had this thought, when I get back to LA, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to talk to my publisher, and I'm going to just see if I can get a meeting with him and say that I want to start writing songs for others, just strictly for pitch. And that means for those out there, you're writing maybe a verse and a chorus, or you might write a whole song. You give it to your publisher, and then they send it out to who they think it might be right for. You have no control over any of that. And he took the meeting, we talked about it, and he said, can you even write anything but rock songs? And I said, yeah, I mean, I can write ballads and stuff like that. I play piano a little bit. And I hooked up with a guy that we will talk about here in a minute, Marty Fredrickson, who had worked with Aerosmith and lots of people. And I went over to his house and I said, I got this song. It's only half done. And he kind of helped me like put it together. And I turned that into my publisher, and basically he was like, okay, I really like this. Let me send it around. Nothing happened from it. But what it did was, he said, okay, here's the deal. I think we give you a year to work on your craft of writing. We get you sessions, we get you in with other writers so that you learn how to do this, but you have a year left on your Exies artist contract. So we can't pay you anything. So it was this thing of like, okay, I got to work for a year for nothing.
Oh man.
And,
Talk about a labor of love. Talk about a passion project. I mean, crazy.
well, it's also kind of desperation too. It's like, well, I'm not
Yeah.
going back out on tour right now, and I got to figure something out. So I bought I bought a book that was about this thick, how to work Pro Tools, and got the first computer program, got the little setup, started doing it. They started sending me sessions and people, and one thing after another, and finally, I think some time went on, and I got a call from Marty, and he had said, I got David Cook in from American Idol, and I want you to come in and do a co-write with us. And I was like, why? And he said, because you need a break. You need somebody to give you a chance. And so he was the one. And I went in and we wrote a song, and it made the record. And
Yeah.
my publisher got wind of that. And then the next thing, I think I worked with James Michaels and Nikki Sixx and Tommy Lee for a song for the 6 a.m. first record.
Yep. I
And
remember
was,
that. I
yeah,
remember that.
and,
Yep.
and those two songs kind of started to happen, and that caught the attention of Tyler Connolly from Theory of a Dead Man.
I remember when you worked with Theory.
Yeah,
Yes.
and I was at a BMI party, and he said, "Hey, I've heard you're writing with a lot of people, and at that, you kind of live the fake it till you make it." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not writing with a lot of artists yet," but he's like, well, "Let's get together and write a song." So I went over to his house, and we wrote a song called "Head Above Water," which was on I don't remember the name of the record, but it had the Low Life single on
Yeah.
it.
Right. I remember that. That was the first that I remembered you, and then kind of regrouped with David Cook. And I was like, oh yeah, Scott's writing with Theory now, and that was sort of the first where I was like, oh, Scott's from the Exies is writing with Theory. Then I regrouped and went back to the things that you did before that.
Right. And so that song, Head Above Water, I got a call from Tyler like a week after we finished it, and he said, "I got good news. That this song is going to be in Dark of the Moon, the Transformers movie."
Yep.
And he's like, "You're already making money." And I was like, "What? This is crazy." When that song got in that movie, I got a call from an A&R guy that worked for Atlantic Records, and his name was Pete Gambard. And he called me and said, "Listen, I just heard this song that you wrote with Tyler, and I have an artist, and her name is Lzzy Hale, and she's in a band called Hailstorm, and would you like to write with her, because I need a ballad for the record. I've already got the first single. I don't need rockers. I need a ballad." And I said, "Sure, Pete. I've heard of her. I've never worked with her, obviously. My friend Marty had worked with her, and he had suggested that maybe because we always hung out. And he was like, 'You should work with this girl. She can sing anything.'" And he sent her to my house, and I think, if memory serves, she was, or I was like the 53rd co-write for that record, like
Wow.
in the 50s. So she had been doing a lot of co-writing over an extended period of time. And she came in and, we talked for a little bit. And I said, listen, Pete has said that we need to write a ballad. And I'm not really, I don't have a ballad, but I have this song idea called I Miss the Misery. And we should work on it and make something of it. 4 days before that, I had worked with Christine Connolly, which was Tyler's ex-wife, and she and I were the ones that kind of crafted that start to that song. And over the course of that 4 days is when I got the phone call and all of it happened. And so I said, listen, we have this song, it's unfinished, so let's work on it. Wrote a second verse, wrote a bridge, cut her vocal. I did the demo. I sent it into Howard Benson and Pete, and they loved it. And she came back, and then the next song we wrote was Miss Hyde.
Yeah.
So those two songs were like the two that made the record right at the end, right at the end. And that started my love affair of working with Lzzy and working with females. That was
Yeah.
the moment. That record, and she and I just got along really well. Anything that I thought of, she could do. Anything she thought of, I could help make it work. And it really became a partnership. And I think that's the key to any good song, is that there's, throughout history, there's so many famous, writing teams. And we kind of for rock, we kind of became that. It wasn't like we worked on it too hard. It just kind of happened. We worked hard on the songs, but that kismet just kind of, it happened naturally. And
Well, this is a time now for women, and I've waited a long time to see this. It's not just because, there are women, there were always women, but they always got kicked to the curb. Rock radio was always, oh, we already have somebody, so we're not going to play 2 women, and we can't play 3 women in an hour. And it was just such a really bunch of, horse crap all the time. I started doing a Friday show called The Queens of Noise,
right,
where I'll put them all in an hour, not because I'm trying to box them in, but because I'm going to show that you can put women in an hour on a rock radio station and people are still going to listen, and they're still going to love it, and they're still going to want to hear an hour's worth of women all next to each other, and you've been a big part of that. And I don't know if you realize that, because you've been there writing a lot of these and co-writing a lot of these hit songs for women that are charting. I mean, look, for people that may not know, rock radio charts are very important. You've had multiple number ones. You've had 20 top 5s. You've had 30 something, top 10s. And a lot of these have involved women.
yes.
Ash Costello and Dorothy, and you wrote so much, you wrote with Lilith Czar. I mean, I love Lilith. She's my girl. I mean, and 100 Little Deaths was you and her together, and everything is so different. So I love that you are not afraid to work with women, that you have embraced that, because you've got to write for individuals, and everybody is different. Dorothy is different than Lilith, who's different than Lzzy. And the fact that you're so open to co-writing and writing with these women and, being involved in their careers has made a big difference in our trajectory as women in music.
Well, I appreciate that so much. I mean, I study them. It's a little known secret, but this doesn't just magically happen. There's I study what they're into. Sometimes I stalk their socials to just kind of see what they're talking about. Sometimes it's just, we send each other little, notes on lyrics, on concept ideas. And I start working on track ideas, and I just try to get inside their head, and and I also have this thing where I have to hear their voice in my head. I have to hear it and where it can go, and I'm able then to contribute fully that way. I really don't know how to explain it any better than that, but it's like, until I hear it, it doesn't really happen. But when I have them inside my head, I know where to push them, and they're doing the work. I'm just kind of there helping to facilitate it.
Well,
Yes,
when a song like Rest in Peace, say, starts to come out of you,
Yeah.
I would imagine that that would be a song that everyone would want to record. I mean, it's just one of those songs that is just so phenomenal and monumental. So, how do you figure out that, Dorothy, who is the perfect person to record that song, and
Yeah.
it's part of her now, how do you figure out that she's the right person? What clicks in your head, or do you not know how that clicks in your head to say, you know what, this person is the person for this song?
Yeah, I don't know that I totally know it, but somehow there seems to be some kind of random happenstance or coincidence that I'm either we've gotten wind that they might be looking for songs, or that maybe I spoke to her manager or just whatever. And I remember working on Rest in Peace, and I wrote that song with uh, two other guys from the Four Horsemen, and I don't know if we're going to get into that a little bit later.
Wow.
So we have a 4-person writing team,
Wow.
and sometimes we, all four of us will get on and we'll say this is who's looking for songs, and this is who's making records right now. And sometimes then we'll just do little ideas as the four of us, and then we'll approach a manager or this or that and send out a little song idea. Do you think that this would work? Do you think that this would work? And if we kind of get yeah, that's kind of in the lane of where she's looking at him, blah 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 blah, then basically those wheels start to turn and you start to refine things. And I think that Dorothy was somewhere on my radar. And when we started Rest in Peace, it was a totally different song, completely different. And I think it was like September of the year before last. And I put it in a drawer and kind of forgot about it for like 4 months. And one afternoon, and I don't know why, Terry, this happens, but I was sitting at the piano and I started playing the progression for the song, and that lyric from that song popped into my head, and I pulled up the lyrics and I looked at it and I listened to the original demo, and I was like, the original demo is shit, the song doesn't sound good, and I just started crafting it. And by the end of the day, I called up Blair and Zach and I said, listen to this. And I just kind of sang it over the phone, and they immediately were both like, that's it. Whatever happened before is, bullshit. Like this is what to work on. I then got a hold of Chris Nielsen, which was Dorothy's manager. And I said, listen, I think I got a song that needs a little bit of refining from her. I know you're still looking for a few, last minute things. Can you please send her to my studio? And he's like, let me get a hold of her. She's probably going to kill me for saying this, but I don't think she never worked with me, so she didn't want to come over to the house. She didn't know what to expect. She wasn't hearing the song. I was saying, I got something for you. It sounds like a radio hit. You just gotta trust me. Just come over here. No, she didn't want to do it for whatever reason. It wasn't rude or anything. She just didn't want to do it. And I was forced to sing the demo. And I had to lower the key so that I could hit the notes. I sang it. I turned it in, and I got a call about a half an hour later. Okay, we're gonna book the studio. When can she come down? And the rest is history. She came in. It was our first time. We had a nice conversation. She got on the mic, and we just went, and we got it in a day. And I comped it, put it together, and that's the song you hear.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, her voice is just amazing. And every time I speak with her, and I love Dorothy, she's a big part of WDHA and our Females in Rock. We just adore her. She's doing our big the Rock Fest show coming up, but she always mentions you. You to her are like, and you could say, well, she didn't want to come over. Well, now you're like, you are such a big part of who she is and of who that record is, because she's just like Scott Stevens. So yeah, she adores you. She absolutely adores you.
Well,
Always gives you the props.
well, that's nice to hear, and I adore her. We just worked on a brand new song that is just fire. It's so
Yeah,
good.
she's unbelievable. I mean, just
It's so
blew.
good.
The
Her
first time I
voice
saw
is
her, I
so
was like,
good.
"Why am I not playing this girl?" She was opening for Lita Ford and Hailstorm, and I said, "Who is this girl?" And I called her label, and I'm like, "You're working me on all these different artists. You work me on this girl. She's a superstar. She's just incredible." And you mentioned Marty Fredrickson, and I would like to circle back to that before we get into talking about the Exies, because we could talk about your songwriting for hours. Marty's also the guy, for people who don't know it. I mean, Marty's a vocal guy.
Mhm.
And everybody knows Almost Famous, and Marty's, he's the Jeff Beebe Stillwater Fever Dog guy.
Yes,
So when you hear those great songs, that's Marty Fredrickson, for those of you who may not know. I mean,
yeah,
he's
yeah.
he's been a singer all his life, but just a multi-talented songwriting, producing, singing. You guys are multi-instrumentalists. I mean, there's just so much going on. So yeah, I mean, we could talk songwriting, but I want to talk about the Exies. We talked about 20 years, and
20
we've
years.
got now 20 years from the Inertia record, which is incredible that now you've decided to put out a new song. When I heard it, I have to say, I did not expect to love it so much. It's a first listen song. Now I call you like a battle cry songwriter too, because you're really good at writing those battle cry songs,
Mhm.
things that really kind of get down into everybody's pores, and people really feel them. Spirits High is the song. It is definitely a battle cry song. So talk to me about how you decided, I've got a song. It's going to be an Exie song, and it's 20 years since our last hurrah.
Yeah, it's a kind of a crazy path to here, and very unexpected one for a very long time. Um, Spirits High was born in the pandemic, and out of the frustration that I think a lot of us felt, where how do I live this existence? What is this? Not only for myself, but for my loved ones, parents, brothers, sisters, cousins, everybody going through something that they have no way to prepare for. I won't lie that life got redundant. I got, in and out of depression and kind of just losing my way, as a lot of us did. And how do there's no bands on tour, there's no this, and now there's no writing. And so who am I and what do I do? And, it's funny because Lzzy and I had this talk on, from Back from the Dead. Same questions. She was like, what does it all mean now? What does my career mean? And I think that for me, as really, in the writer producer realm, I needed something to kind of, as a coping mechanism, and something that was a distraction for me. And this song kind of, as a lot of them do, it just kind of came to me. And I thought, I was like, wow, that really sounds like kind of like circa '05, the Exies. Like, it sounds like Ugly, same kind of strumming pattern, not the same chords, but the same kind of feel. And it really struck me as something that seemed so familiar. And I just kind of started to work on it periodically. I'd pull it out for a couple of days, and then I'd put it away for 2 months, and then I'd bring it out again for 3 days and put it away for 5 months, and this went for 2.5 years. And I gave up on it twice. I didn't see the point in it. And then um, one thing led to another. And I realized that it was the 20th anniversary of Inertia on January 7th of 2023, and how great it would be to release something new, because I was getting wind that the Spotify numbers were they were skyrocketing for whatever reason.
Yeah, there's this kind of resurgence of interest in the Exies.
I don't even know how this is possible, but it just it is. I mean, we were going from like 140,000 listeners to, we're at like 498,000 a month now, and the streams are 2 million a month. So I don't know where this is really coming from, but that, plus really rolling my sleeves up and deciding to have the courage to get past the fact that this was like a diary song for me. It was a private song. It was supposed to never be heard. It was my real, true feelings on the page. But somehow, through time and working on it enough, I kind of moved through those feelings. And I guess I felt like it was time to give something back, and to put it out there to see if anybody felt the way I did, and to let people know that I feel the way that they do. And I released it on January 27th, and the immediate core Exies fan base gobbled it up, and they absolutely love it. And I don't know, it was emotional. It really was an unexpected thing, and I never, you know, I never thought that this was going to happen. I never thought I'd make music again. And it really awoke something inside of me that I think I needed, that I didn't know I needed. And I've had a lot of great feedback from the artists that I work with, from Ash and Lzzy and Lilith and Dorothy and
Chris
uh,
Daughtry, he's the one who brought it to my attention. And he
who,
said, "Have you heard this new Exie song?"
yeah,
And I listened to it and I was like, "Oh my God." You know, it just blew me away. I mean, just so incredibly great.
well, thank you so much. And you know, it's funny. Speaking of there are no coincidences. Coincidences. I'm working with him right now in the other studio.
Chris, we love him. He's the best. Yeah. But he was the one who brought it to my attention when I had him on this feature and we talked about you and Marty Fredrickson. So it's like, it's so strange how everything kind of comes full circle and the boxes get checked. And then all of a sudden I heard about the sexy song and then you were available and it was just crazy. And you know, I was so happy to find out that you would want to do this feature with me, because not only are you the man behind the songs, but you've got this great new song out on your own, and you're a friend of ours, and it's been 20 years since I've seen you. So it's just absolute perfection. So I'm
You
just
know what?
thrilled to have you on and thrilled to see you again.
I'm absolutely over the moon about this, and I'll tell you why. This song was supposed to do that. It was to honor the past. It was to honor the fans, the supporters, the thing that was that time of my life, and I had no idea what would happen. I guess you know how you try not to have expectations, but it's been overwhelming. I mean, I think I actually broke down the first 2 days a few times from long, Instagram messages or texts from people about how great it was to hear the band again, and the sound hadn't really changed. That's what everybody says. Like, I really feel this lyric now, and it doesn't sound like you guys ever went away.
No, it doesn't. And it's so familiar, yet it's so fresh. You know, it's that fresh and familiar thing, which you know, I mean, is so important. And yeah, I agree. That's exactly what it felt like to me when I listened to it. And it just it blew me away. I hooked
I
up with
love
my
it.
afternoon guy, Mike Anthony, and I was like, well, let's listen to this song together and you let me know what you think. And he just looks at me and he's like, "Oh my God, so good." I mean, just so good.
Thank you.
And I'm so happy for you, because I still think that you still need to be making music, not just for others, but for you as well.
Well, this is, never. I've learned my never say never lesson with this song because, as I said, this was never supposed to come out. I mean, I don't know now. I'm kind of like, what do I do?
Yeah, well, I don't want to ask you that, because I think that this is now like the journey now. And I think you're sort of on the journey. I don't think you know the answer to, like, okay, so what's going to be next for the Exies and what's going to be next for you? And I don't think you know that right now. So I'm not even going to ask you that question because it seems kind of redundant.
I'm coming to your studio to play songs.
You can come by anytime. We are still in the same spot. I have an area for you, and
Uh,
I would love, love, love to see you in person. And I'm so stoked that we got to be able to do this. I think it's just, I've said it to people who, whether they're Jersey people that I've had on from Skid Row or old friends that we've had on, like Brent Smith or Lzzy. I'm so happy that I'm still able to connect with my friends from 10 years, 5 years, 20 years, 25 years ago on WDHA. It's something that I hold so dear to my heart, and I'm so humbled and grateful for it. And you definitely are in that box of people.
yeah, I mean, this is a real treat to hook up with you again. I couldn't believe it when Ad Rock kind of. I mean, I was just like, wow, this is
Hooked us up and put us
crazy.
back together again, reunited. Like we're Peaches and Herb
You're the
after
you're
all
the
these
band.
years.
We're getting the band back together.
Getting the band back together, baby. So seriously, if you're ever in Jersey, please come by and see us. I would love, love, love to see you. And congratulations on just a brilliant new song. Spirits High, the Exies are back, I hope. And the man behind the music, you've been doing so much for rock music and rock radio over the last how many years? 15, 20 years.
It's been
It's just
16.
incredible to be back with you.
It's been 16 years since the Exies released
16.
anything. So this is it's crazy. I don't know.
It is crazy. It is crazy. Scott Stevens, thank you so much for joining me, especially when you're in the damn studio with Daughtry and I still got some time for you. I feel so honored.
He was stoked. He was like, "Look, I did it. I did this thing last week with her."
Love
So
him.
and
Love
I'm like,
him.
"Hey, I known her forever. You get off my cloud, bruh.
I love you, and congratulations on a great new song, and I hope to see you in person soon.
Absolutely, Terry. So thank you so much for having me.
DHA's Reconnect with Rockers is powered by Dover Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram on Route 46 in Rockaway.